The sun rose over the United Nations headquarters in New York City, but the city did not wake up. The streets were empty. The cars were parked neatly by the curbs, their doors unlocked, keys resting on the seats. The traffic lights flickered from red to green to yellow, cycling through their colors for ghosts that were not there. It was quiet. It was too quiet for a planet that usually roared with the noise of 8 billion people. Far above the Earth, in the cold darkness of space, the same silence held sway. The great orbital shipyards, usually buzzing with welding drones and shuttles, were still. The massive ships that floated there were dark, save for the soft running lights that blinked in the void. These were not warships. They were arks. They were the homes of humanity now. On the bridge of the largest ark, a man named Scott stood by the thick viewport. He looked down at the blue and white marble that floated below them. Scott was a tall man with tired eyes. He wore simple clothes, a gray jacket and dark pants. He did not wear a uniform. There were no uniforms anymore. He pressed his hand against the cold glass. "Are they ready?" Scott asked. He did not turn around. A woman named Amy replied from the pilot's chair. "Yes, Scott. All ships report green lights. The engines are warm. The navigation computers are set for the deep void. We are just waiting for your word." Amy's voice was calm. She was younger than Scott, with her hair tied back in a neat ponytail. She tapped a few buttons on the console in front of her. The ship hummed very softly, a vibration that could be felt in the floor plates. "And the ground team?" Scott asked. "Everyone is off the surface," Amy said. "The last shuttle docked with the colony ship Hope 10 minutes ago. The Earth is empty, Scott. There is no one left but the wind." Scott nodded slowly. He took a deep breath. This was the end of 1,000 generations of history. It was the end of blood, sweat, and tears shed on the soil of Earth. It was the beginning of something else. "Good," Scott said. "Open the channel to the Council. Let them know we are leaving." Amy hesitated for a second. Her fingers hovered over the communication panel. "Do we really have to? They never listened to us before. They will just think it is a trick." "They are our neighbors, Amy," Scott said softly. "Even if they are bad neighbors, we say goodbye." Amy sighed and pressed the button. A small light turned from red to green. "Channel open," she said. Scott leaned toward the microphone. He spoke clearly, but his voice was devoid of anger. "This is Scott of Human Command. To the Galactic Council, to the ships of the Krulth and the Vex and all others. We are departing. We are leaving the Sol system. We do not wish to fight. We do not wish to argue. We are simply going. Please do not follow. Please do not fire. We are leaving the Sol system to you. Goodbye." Scott cut the connection. He looked at Amy. "Take us out." Amy pushed the throttle forward. The great engines of the Ark flared with a silent blue light. The ship began to move, slowly at first, then faster. Around them, hundreds of other ships moved in perfect formation. It was a dance of giants. They turned away from the sun and pointed their noses toward the darkness between the stars. Light years away, on the great space station known as Ethelgard, panic was instant. The council chamber was a massive room with a high ceiling made of glass. Outside, the stars shone brightly. Inside, aliens from 100 different worlds sat in floating chairs. In the center of the room sat the council leader of the Krulth, Overseer Krax. Krax was a large creature with rough, gray skin and 4 arms. He usually looked bored, but today he was slamming his fist on the metal table. They are lying. Krax roared, his voice amplified by the speakers. It is a trick. The humans are deceitful. They are plotting to destroy us. Sitting next to him was Counselor Mark. Mark was human. He was the only human in the room. He wore a formal suit, which looked out of place among the alien armor and robes. Mark sat very still, looking at the large screen that showed the view of the Sol system. On the screen, the tiny dots of the human fleet were moving away. They are not lying, Overseer, Mark said quietly. His voice was tired. I told you. We are leaving. Leaving. Krax laughed, a harsh, barking sound. Why would you leave? Your system is rich. Your sun is stable. You have weapons. You have armies. No one leaves paradise unless they are forced to. Or unless they are setting a trap. Krax stood up. He pointed a clawed finger at the screen. Look at them. They are gathering their warships. They are moving to attack us from the dark. They are going to circle around and hit us while we look at their empty planet. Another alien, a tall, thin being named Representative Zor of the Vex, stood up. Zor had large, dark eyes and no mouth. He spoke through a device on his chest. The energy readings from their ships are consistent with warp travel, Overseer. Not with weapon charging. They are spooling their drives to leave the galaxy. A decoy? Krax shouted. The humans are sneaky. They want us to lower our shields so they can blast us. Mark looked at the other aliens. He felt a deep sadness in his chest. He had tried for years to make peace. He had tried to explain that humanity just wanted to be left alone to explore and build. But the Council only saw threats. They only saw potential enemies. They saw humanity's growing population and their fast ships and assumed the worst. They are not going to attack, Mark said again. He stood up. He smoothed his jacket. I am resigning from the Council, effective immediately. Krax froze. What? You cannot resign. You are a hostage of peace. You ensure your people behave. My people are behaving, Mark said. They are leaving. There is nothing for me to do here. I am going to the shuttle bay. I am leaving with them. Stop him. Krax yelled at the guards. Do not let him escape. He knows the codes. He knows the plan. Two large guards stepped forward to block Mark's path. Mark held up his hands. Do not make this difficult. There is no plan. There is no code. Just look. Mark pointed to the main view screen. The human fleet had reached the edge of the system. The Krulth fleet, stationed nearby to blockade the humans, watched with weapons charged. But the human ships did not turn toward the enemy. They did not fire. They simply activated their warp gates. One by one, great rings of blue light tore open in the fabric of space. The arcs flew into the rings. With a flash of white light, they vanished. They did not explode. They did not fire lasers. They just ceased to be there. 10 ships. 50 ships. 100 ships. Gone. Then, the silence broke. Not with a bang, but with a voice on the bridge of the Krulth flagship. Overseer. A communications officer shouted. The human ships, they are gone. Our sensors cannot track them. They have jumped to hyperspace. Where? Krax demanded. Where did they go? We do not know, the officer replied, his voice shaking. The trajectory is, away. Out of the galactic plane. They are leaving the galaxy entirely. Krax sat down heavily. He stared at the screen. The Sol system was quiet. The blue lights of the warp gates faded and disappeared. The humans were gone. They abandoned their world, Krax whispered. They just left. Mark walked past the frozen guards. He reached the door of the chamber. He looked back at the council, at the confused faces of the aliens who had feared his people for so long. We told you, Mark said. We are explorers. We found something new. We did not want to fight you for old things. Goodbye, Overseer. Goodbye, Council. Mark walked out. The doors hissed shut behind him. On the bridge of the Ark, Scott watched the stars stretch into lines of light. The familiar constellations of Earth were blurring, dissolving into the mists of faster-than-light travel. The silence of the ship was peaceful. Amy, Scott said. Set course for the Andromeda sector. Let us go home. Aye, Captain, Amy replied. Course set. Entering warp in 3, 2, 1. The ship jumped. The solar system was left behind, floating in the dark, empty, and waiting. The council awaited the coming judgment, but the judgment never came. There was only the quiet echo of a species that had decided to move on. The station of Ethelgard did not sleep. It was a massive metal structure that orbited a bright blue trade planet, a home to thousands of aliens and a hub for the Galactic Council. Usually, the station was noisy. Markets were full of traders selling strange fruits and metal parts. Bars were full of spacers telling stories about asteroids they had mined. But today, the station felt like a tomb. The hallways were empty. The lights were dimmed to a low red. Everyone was inside their quarters, watching their screens. They were waiting for the end. The council sat in the main meeting room, the same room where Overseer Krax had shouted the day before. Now, the room was silent. The air scrubbers hummed softly, recycling the air, but no one spoke. Every eye was fixed on the main holographic table. The table showed a live view of the Sol system, the home of the humans. It showed the yellow sun and the blue planet Earth. It showed the red planet Mars and the gas giants. It looked peaceful. But to the council, it looked like a bomb waiting to go off. Overseer Krax sat in his chair. He had not moved for 6 hours. His forearms were crossed over his chest. His eyes were narrow slits. He was staring at the image of Earth, looking for the slightest change. Beside him sat Representative Zor of the Vex. Zor was perfectly still, like a statue, analyzing the energy readings on his data pad. It has been too long, Krax finally said. His voice was low and rough. They are planning something. They are waiting for us to relax. The jump signatures have faded, Zor said in his mechanical, electronic voice. The human ships are gone. They are not hiding behind the moon. They are not in the asteroid belt. They have left this dimension of space. Then why is the planet still there? Krax roared, slamming a fist onto the table. If they left, why did they not destroy the Earth? Humans are a virus. A virus does not leave the host body alive when it moves to a new host. They should have burned the world. They should have cracked the planet to stop us from having it. Perhaps they could not destroy it, Zor suggested. Maybe their weapons were not as strong as they claimed. Krax shook his head violently. No, I know them. I have fought them. I have seen their determination. This is a trap. They want us to go there. They want us to land our troops. And then, when we are on the ground, the planet will explode. or a hidden signal will activate a machine that will kill us all. Far away, in the human sector of the station, a man named David was packing a bag. David was a tall, thin man who wore the uniform of the human embassy. He was placing a few framed photos into a box. He picked up a picture of his family standing in front of the Grand Canyon on Earth. They were smiling. He sighed and put the picture in the box. There was a knock at the door. David did not look up. "It is open," he said. The door slid open, and a security guard walked in. The guard was a reptilian alien named Slick. Slick held a shock baton in his hand, but he was not pointing it at David. He looked nervous. "Are you leaving?" Ambassador Slick asked. David zipped up the bag and put it on the floor. "I am not an ambassador anymore, Slick. My government is gone. I am just a citizen now. And yes, I am leaving. There is a transport ship leaving for the Outer Rim in an hour. I have a ticket." Slick looked at the empty shelves in the room. "Where will you go? The humans have no colonies left. The arcs are gone." "I will find a place," David said. "Maybe I will farm. Maybe I will fish. I just need to get away from here." "They are scared," Slick said, nodding his head toward the hallway, toward the council chambers. "The council is terrified. They think your people set a bomb on the earth. They think this is a punishment." David laughed. It was a dry, tired laugh. "A punishment? No. We are not angry, Slick. We are just done. We looked at the stars, and we realized we didn't want to share them with people who always wanted to fight. We didn't want to spend our lives arguing over borders. So we built new ships and we left. That is all." "But the defenses," Slick insisted. "We have reports. The planetary shields are down. The automated turrets on the moon are offline. Why would you turn off the defenses unless you wanted someone to attack?" David walked over to the window and looked out at the stars. "We turned them off because they cost money to run. And because we didn't want an accidental war. We left the door unlocked, Slick. We left the lights on. We are good neighbors. We cleaned up before we left." Slick did not understand. To his people, leaving a resource-rich planet undefended was madness. It was a lure. "You are playing a dangerous game, human. The Krulth fleet is preparing to launch. They are sending a scout ship to Earth. They are going to check for bombs." David turned around. His face was serious. "Tell them to be careful. Tell them to treat the planet well. It is a beautiful house. We took good care of it." Back on the bridge of the Krulth flagship, the Iron Fist, the atmosphere was tense. Technicians ran back and forth, carrying data pads. The alarms were beeping quietly. Commander Gorn, a Krulth warrior with a scarred face, stood at the main view screen. He watched the tactical map. "Scout Team 1, he spoke into the comms system. "Report status." A voice crackled back. "Scout Team 1 here. We are approaching the Earth orbit. We have our shields up to maximum. We are scanning for radiation, energy signatures, and weaponized devices. Be careful," Commander Gorn warned. "The humans are tricky. Do not trust the silence." "We are scanning the atmosphere, Commander," the scout pilot said. "It is clean. Breathable. Perfect conditions." "Landing coordinates?" Gorn asked. "We are targeting the main continent," the pilot replied. "The place they called North America. We are landing in the big city by the water. New York." Commander Gorn grunted. He looked at the timeline on the wall. It had been 3 days since the humans departed. The council was arguing. Some wanted to blast Earth from space to be safe. Others wanted to send a ground team. Gorn had volunteered his best squad for the ground team. He needed to know the truth. If it is a trap, Gorn said to himself, we will spring it and destroy them. Meanwhile, inside the council chambers, the argument had started again. Krax was pacing back and forth. We must act. Every hour we wait is an hour they have to prepare their ambush. They are light years away. Zor argued, his voice calm. Even if they turned around, it would take them years to get back. We must secure the Sol system before scavengers do. The resources on Earth are valuable. Value. Krax spat. It is a poison chalice. But, if we do not take it, the pirates will. Or the Vex. Zor stood up straight. Then send the fleet. Send the ground troops. If there is a bomb, we lose a scout ship. If there is no bomb, we gain a world. Krax stopped pacing. He looked at the image of the blue planet. It looked so innocent. But he knew the humans. They were small and weak compared to the Krulth, but they were clever. They had beaten the Krulth in 2 small skirmishes years ago using weird tactics. He did not trust them. Very well, Krax said. Order the fleet to condition red. Send a landing party. Tell Commander Gorn that if he sees one human, one weapon, or one strange wire, he is to fire immediately. On the station, David walked toward the space dock with his bag over his shoulder. He passed a viewport that looked out toward the Sol system. In the distance, he could see the engine trails of the alien ships. They were moving toward Earth. They were slow, cautious, like thieves approaching a sleeping house. I hope you find what you are looking for, David whispered. I hope you find peace. He boarded the transport ship. The ramp closed behind him. He did not look back. The transport lifted off and turned away from the station, leaving the council to their fear. The waiting game was over. The judgment was coming, or so they thought. But the Earth just kept spinning, silent and green, under the watchful eye of the sun. The wind blew through the empty streets of New York, moving a plastic bag across an intersection. There were no cars to stop it. There were no people to see it. Just the wind, and the stars watching from above. The shuttle descended from the gray clouds, its engines roaring loudly. The sound crashed against the empty buildings of the city below. Inside the shuttle, the pilot, a reptilian Krulth named Commander Gorn, gripped the controls tightly. His scales were pale with fear. He kept looking at the sensors, waiting for a missile lock, waiting for an explosion, waiting for the trap to spring. Shields are at 100%, the co-pilot said, his voice shaking. Scanning the ground. There is no movement. No heat signatures. It is cold down there. Keep the weapons powered, Gorn growled. The humans are tricky. They might be hiding. The shuttle broke through the cloud layer. The city of New York spread out below them. It was a massive maze of tall steel and glass towers. The sun was shining brightly off the windows. Usually, there would be millions of hover cars flying between the buildings. Usually, the air traffic control would be screaming at them. Today, the sky was empty. The bridges over the river were silent. The huge park in the middle of the city was just a dark green patch. Landing Zone Alpha, Gorn said. The big open park. Take us down. The shuttle settled slowly onto the grass. The landing gear crunched into the dirt. The engines shut down, and the heavy silence of the world returned. For a long minute, no one moved inside the ship. They listened. They expected laser fire. They expected the ground to open up and swallow them. Nothing happened. "Open the ramp," Gorn ordered. "Tactical team, forward." The back ramp lowered with a hiss of hydraulics. A team of 10 heavily armored soldiers marched out. They carried large plasma rifles. They scanned the trees, the bushes, and the distant buildings. They moved in a tight circle, their footsteps heavy on the grass. Commander Gorn walked down the ramp. He took a deep breath of the air. It smelled strange. It smelled clean. It smelled like wet earth and trees, but there was no smell of fuel, no smell of food cooking, and no smell of garbage. The air was pure. "Area secure," the squad leader reported. "No life forms within 1 kilometer." Gorn nodded. He looked around. They were in a place called Central Park. It was beautiful. The trees were tall and green. The grass was cut perfectly. Flowers bloomed in neat rows. It looked like a garden, not a battlefield. "Move out," Gorn said. "We go to the big building. The glass tower with the flags." They left the park and walked out onto the wide streets. The concrete was gray and cracked in places, but it was clean. There were no cars. Abandoned vehicles sat parked neatly along the sides of the road. The doors were closed. The metal was shiny. Gorn walked up to a small car and looked inside. There were papers on the seat. A small toy hung from the mirror. It looked like the driver had just stepped away for a minute. "Why are the cars here?" a soldier asked. "If they left in a hurry, they would crash them. If they left slowly, they would take them." "They are mocking us," Gorn said, though he did not believe it himself. "They want us to feel confused." They marched for hours through the city. They passed shops with windows full of clothes and computers. They passed restaurants with tables set out on the sidewalk. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the empty streets. The lights on the buildings did not turn on. The city grew dark, but it was not a scary darkness. It was a quiet, peaceful darkness. Finally, they reached their target. The building was tall and stood by the water. Flags from many nations flew on poles outside, flapping gently in the breeze. The doors were made of glass. Gorn pointed at the door. "Breaching charge." "Blow it." The soldiers placed a small explosive on the glass. There was a loud bang, and the glass shattered into 1,000 pieces. The soldiers rushed inside, their lights cutting through the dusty gloom. "Clear!" shouted one voice after another. Gorn walked into the large lobby. There were marble floors and high ceilings. There was a reception desk, but there was no one behind it. On the walls, there were maps of the world. Gorn walked to the elevators. He pressed the button. To his surprise, the doors opened immediately. The power was still on. They took the elevator to the top floor. When the doors opened, they stepped into a large room with a huge table. This was the Security Council room. At the front of the room, there was a wall with a seal on it. In the center of the room, standing on a small tripod, was a single device. It was a small, glowing metal cube. A soft blue light pulsed from it, rhythmically, like a heartbeat. "Hold fire!" Gorn screamed, raising his hand. "Don't shoot!" The soldiers froze. They pointed their guns at the cube. They waited for it to explode. They waited for gas to come out of it. but it just sat there, pulsing with a gentle blue light. Gorn walked slowly toward it. He scanned it with his helmet sensor. No radiation, he said. No explosive material. It is just a computer. He reached the table. He looked at the small screen attached to the cube. Words were scrolling across it. They were written in standard galactic trade language, the common language used by all aliens. It was not the human language. Gorn leaned in to read. "Welcome," the screen read. "If you are reading this, you have likely broken our front door. We apologize for the mess." Gorn blinked. He read the next line. "This is not a weapon. This is the manual." He scrolled down. The screen filled with categories. Chapter 1, Atmospheric Stability Codes. Chapter 2, Water Filtration System Maintenance. Chapter 3, How to Restart the Power Grid if it fails. Chapter 4, Agricultural Care for the Hydroponic Gardens. Chapter 5, Wi-Fi Password. Gorn stared at the screen. He scrolled further. At the bottom, there was a video file. He pressed play. A face appeared on the screen. It was a human male. He looked old, with white hair and kind eyes. He was wearing a simple sweater. He smiled at the camera. "Hello," the man said. "I am Scott. If you are seeing this, we have left. We left the Sol system to you. We know we argued in the past. We know you did not trust us, and perhaps we did not trust you. But we did not want to leave behind a broken world. The planet is stable. The climate is balanced. We spent the last 10 years cleaning the oceans and repairing the soil." The man paused, looking sad for a moment. "There are no traps. There are no hidden bombs. We do not hate you. We simply wanted to go somewhere new. We ask only one thing. Please take care of it. The Earth is a good home. It deserves to be lived in." The video ended. The screen went back to the list of maintenance files. Gorn stood there for a long time. He looked around the empty room. He looked at his soldiers, who were lowering their rifles, looking confused and foolish. "Commander," the squad leader asked. "Is it a virus? Will the data destroy our computers when we upload it?" Gorn shook his head slowly. "No," he whispered. "It is just a manual." He tapped a button on the device labeled Download. A small progress bar appeared on the screen. It filled up quickly. "Download complete." Gorn pulled out his own communicator. He opened a channel to the flagship in orbit. His voice felt heavy in his throat. "Overseer Krax," Gorn said. "Report." Krax's voice boomed. "Did you find the superweapon? Did you find the doomsday device? Is it armed?" "No, Overseer," Gorn said. He looked out the window at the city lights flickering on automatically as the night deepened. The city was waking up for no one. "There is no weapon." "What do you mean?" Krax asked. "Then what is it?" Gorn looked at the manual on the screen. He saw a file named Recipes for Earth Plants. "It is a welcome gift," Gorn said. "They left us the keys. They even left the instructions on how to keep the lights on." Silence filled the communication channel. For a long time, Krax did not speak. Gorn could hear the sound of the Overseer breathing heavily. "A manual?" Krax finally asked, his voice sounding small. "For an entire planet?" "Yes, Overseer," Gorn said. "And the Wi-Fi password is welcome home. All lowercase." Gorn switched off his communicator. He sat down in one of the comfortable chairs at the big table. He looked at the manual again. It was so human. It was so organized. It was so kind. And it was the most confusing thing Gorn had ever seen in his long life of war. The silence of the city suddenly felt very loud. It felt like the earth was holding its breath, waiting to see if the aliens would break its toys or take care of them. The news from the earth traveled fast. Faster than any ship. Within an hour, every screen on the station Ethelgard was showing the same image. It was the logo of the United Nations, and next to it, the words, System Manual, Download Complete. The council members sat in their chairs, staring at their personal tablets. The mood in the room was not happy. It was heavy. It was the feeling of a child who has been caught stealing candy, only to find out the owner was leaving the candy on the porch with a nice note. Overseer Krax looked old. He slumped in his large seat, his forearms resting on the armrests. He scrolled through the file that Commander Gorn had sent. He saw diagrams for weather satellites. He saw instructions on how to fix the water pipes in the city. He saw a section on how to care for the animals in the zoos. It is a trick, Krax said, but his voice had no fire in it. It has to be a trick. Look at the complexity of the code, Representative Zor said. Zor was sitting with his back straight, tapping his screen rapidly. This is not a military code. This is care. They stabilized the tectonic plates, they repaired the ozone layer. They did this work in the last 10 years, while we were threatening to blockade them. While we were building weapons to point at them. Krax threw his tablet onto the table. It slid across the smooth metal and stopped near the edge. They mock us. They look down on us. They say, look at us, we can fix a planet, and you are just barbarians with guns. This is a psychological weapon to destroy our morale. Or, Zor said quietly, it is exactly what it looks like. A gift. Counselor Mark stood up. He had been sitting in the corner, listening. He was wearing his coat, holding a small travel bag in his hand. He looked at the aliens with pity in his eyes. It is not a weapon, Krax, Mark said. I told you. We don't want to fight you. We never did. We argued because you pushed us. We built defenses because you threatened us. But that is not who we want to be. We want to be explorers. We want to be builders. So, when we decided to leave, we didn't want to leave a mess. We cleaned our room before we left the house. Krax looked at Mark. His large eyes were narrowed. You are leaving now? Yes, Mark said. My ride is here. The final transport shuttle is docking at Bay 4. It will take me to a civilian ship that will follow the arcs. I am going home to my people. You are abandoning your post, Krax said. You are a diplomat. There is nothing to diplomacy here anymore, Mark said. The Earth is yours. The Sol system is yours. You can have it. We don't need it. You are arrogant, Krax spat. You think you are better than us because you run away. Mark sighed. He walked to the center of the room, facing Overseer Krax. I do not think we are better, Krax. I think we are just different. We realized that living next to neighbors who constantly plot to kill you is tiring. It wastes energy. So, we chose to use that energy to go somewhere else. He paused and looked around the room at all the different alien races. You have a beautiful planet now. It is a paradise. The humans spent 200 years fixing it. The air is clean. The water is pure. If you invade it, if you put your military bases there and start your wars, you will destroy it in 10 years. Then you will have nothing but a rock. We will not destroy it. Krax shouted. We are the council. We bring order. You bring conflict, Mark said softly. Look at your history. Look at your planets. You strip them. You fight over them. Earth was different. We made it a garden. We are giving you the keys to the garden, Krax. The question is, are you going to be a gardener or are you going to be a weed killer? Mark turned and walked toward the door. His shoes clicked on the metal floor. Stop him! Krax yelled. The guards looked at each other. They looked at Krax, then at Mark. No one moved. They did not raise their weapons. They just watched him go. The shame in the room was too heavy. Even the guards felt it. Mark reached the door. He stopped and turned back one last time. The manual is very detailed, by the way. If you scroll to the end, there is a contact button. It doesn't call for help. It just sends a message saying thanks. That is all. Just thanks. The doors hissed open, and Mark walked out. He did not look back again. Overseer Krax sat in the silence. The air in the room felt stale. He looked at the tablet on the table. He picked it up. He tapped the screen. He went to the file labeled Welcome. He saw the video of the old human, Scott, again. He saw the kindness in the human's eyes. Krax had spent his entire life fighting. He had conquered 3 systems. He had destroyed planets to win wars. But he had never felt like this. He felt small. He felt like a thief who had stolen a masterpiece and then realized he couldn't even appreciate it. Ambassador Lisa was waiting for Mark at the shuttle dock. She was a younger woman, wearing a flight suit. She was checking the pressure gauges on the airlock door. When she saw Mark, she smiled. I was worried they wouldn't let you leave, Lisa said. They let me leave, Mark said. They didn't know what else to do. They are confused, Lisa. They are looking at a planet that is perfect, and they don't know how to handle it because they didn't make it. Lisa nodded. I heard about the manual. Did they read it? Some of it, Mark said. But they don't understand it. They think it's a trap because they would never do something like this. If the Krulth left a planet, they would scorch it first. They cannot understand compassion. The two of them walked up the ramp of the shuttle. The pilot, a man named Brian, gave them a thumbs up from the cockpit. Strap in, Brian said over the intercom. We are leaving in 5 minutes. The civilian convoy is forming up. Mark and Lisa sat in the plush seats. The shuttle hummed as the engines started. Through the small window, Mark could see the station Ethelgard. It was a giant wheel of metal against the stars. Do you think they will take care of it? Lisa asked, looking out the window too. I don't know, Mark said honestly. I hope they do. But even if they don't, we did our part. We paid our rent. We left the place better than we found it. That is all we can do. The shuttle lifted off. It drifted away from the station, turning toward the open space where the last of the human ships were gathering. Back in the council chamber, Krax was still alone with his thoughts. Representative Zor stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the Sol system, far away in the distance. Overseer, Zor said. The Krulth fleet is requesting orders. They want to know if they should begin landing troops to occupy the cities. They want to start mining the moon for resources. Krax looked at the tablet. He saw the file named Wildlife Preservation. He saw the file named Park Maintenance. He thought about the humans. They were weak. Their skin was soft. They lived short lives, but they had done something the Krulth Empire had never done. They had walked away from a fight they could win, simply because they didn't want to fight anymore. No, Krax said. Zor turned around. No. No occupation, Krax said. Send a science team. Only scientists. And botanists. People who know how to grow things. Overseer Zor was surprised. This is a prime strategic world. We must control it. We are not conquerors today, Zor, Krax said. The humans, they judged us. Not with a bomb, but with a garden. They left this here to show us that we are failures. If we send soldiers and tanks, we prove them right. We prove we are just monsters. Krax stood up. He walked to the window, standing next to Zor. He watched the small speck of the shuttle vanish into the darkness. We will take the planet, Krax said. But we will take care of it. We will follow the manual. We will make the earth bloom. We will show them that we can be better than they think we are. That is the only victory left to us. Zor looked at Krax with new respect. We will be gardeners, Zor said. Yes, Krax whispered. We will be gardeners. And for the first time in centuries, the council chamber was quiet, not with fear, but with the weight of a new and difficult idea. The humans were gone, but their ghost remained, floating in the silence of the stars, challenging the aliens to become something more than just killers. The judgment was not a punishment. It was a test. And the galaxy was watching to see if they would pass. 10 years passed in the galaxy like a slow wind. The stars did not change, but the people living near them did. The station Ethelgard was still busy, but the feeling was different. The markets were quieter. The arguments in the council halls were less angry. Everyone knew about the Earth. It was the famous garden world that the humans had left behind. On the bridge of the Iron Fist, the Krulth flagship, Commander Gorn sat in the captain's chair. He was older now. His scales were faded, and he moved slower. The ship was parked in a high orbit around the blue planet Earth. Below them, the white clouds swirled over the green continents. It looked like a jewel. Report, Gorn said. The young officer at the sensor screen turned around. Atmospheric purity is at 99%, Commander. The ocean levels are stable. The temperature is perfect. The human drones have finished planting the new forests in the southern continent. Gorn nodded. And the tourists, how many aliens are on the surface today? 300,000, sir, the officer said. Mostly Vex and Krulth families. They are visiting the old human cities to look at the architecture. Are they following the rules? Gorn asked. Yes, sir, the officer replied. No weapons are allowed on the surface. Everyone follows the path. No one steps on the grass in the protected zones. The automated systems that the humans left behind warn them if they litter. It is very orderly. Gorn smiled, a rare sight for a Krulth. He remembered the fear he had felt 10 years ago. He had thought the Earth was a trap. He had thought the humans were monsters waiting to kill them all. Now, he saw the truth. The humans had been teachers. They had taught the galaxy that a world did not need to be a factory. It could be a home. The silence of the human departure had changed the culture of the entire council. The warrior races, the ones that loved war, were not as popular anymore. The young aliens looked at the Earth and saw what could be achieved if you worked together instead of fighting. The humans were gone, but their shadow was long. They had become a legend. In deep space, far away from the Sol system, a small listening station floated. It was a boring place. The technicians who worked there spent their shifts watching the static on the screens, waiting for signals from pirate ships or drifting asteroids. Technician David, a young Vex with large dark eyes, was drinking a warm cup of soup. He watched the green lines on his monitor move up and down. It was a quiet night. The station hummed softly. Suddenly, a light flashed on the console. It was a red light. It meant the deep space sensors had picked something up. David put his soup down. He leaned in closer. "Computer," he said. "Identify signal." "Signal unknown," the computer replied in a robotic voice. "Origin, Andromeda Galaxy. Source, unknown." David's heart beat faster. The Andromeda Galaxy was far away. It was the place where the humans had gone. No one had heard from them since they left. David checked the frequency. It was not a military frequency. It was a wideband transmission, open for anyone to hear. He adjusted the audio receivers. He pressed a button to listen. At first, there was only static. Crackle, hiss, pop. Then, through the noise, a voice came through. It was clear. It was happy. It was a human voice. "Testing, 1, 2. Is this thing on?" the voice said. It was a man's voice. He sounded like he was smiling. "Okay. This is a general broadcast. To anyone listening. To the Council. To the Krulth. To the Vex. To our old neighbors." David trembled. He quickly hit the record button. He knew the Council would want to hear this. "This is Scott," the voice continued. "I am speaking to you from the colony ship New Horizon. We have been traveling for a long time. We missed the view." David listened intently. "We wanted to tell you that we arrived safely," Scott said. "We found a new home. It is beautiful here. The sky is purple, and the moons are bright. We have built our first city. We named it Hope. We are planting gardens. We are building schools. We are living." The voice paused for a moment. "We also checked the telescopes," Scott went on. "We looked back at the Milky Way. We saw the lights of the Sol system. We are happy that you are taking care of the Earth. We saw the atmospheric readings. You kept it green. Thank you. We knew you could do it." David felt a strange feeling in his chest. It was pride. The Vex did not usually feel pride for other races, but this was different. "We are not coming back," Scott said. "We like it here. We have new neighbors in this galaxy, and we are getting along well. But we wanted to send a message. We wanted to say that we forgive you for the threats. We forgive you for the fear. We hope you are happy." The voice became a little quieter. "Goodbye, Milky Way. Enjoy the garden. Good luck." The transmission ended. The screen went back to showing static waves. David sat back in his chair. He stared at the screen. For a long time, he did not move. He thought about the history books. He thought about the wars, the hatred, and the fear that used to fill the galaxy. And he thought about this simple message from millions of light years away. He tapped a button on his console. "Priority 1 signal," he said to the computer. "Send recording to Ethelgard. Mark it urgent but peaceful." On the station Ethelgard, Overseer Krax was in his office. He was very old now. He walked with a cane. He was looking at a hologram of the Earth, spinning slowly on his desk. He was trying to decide if he should retire. He was tired of politics. His communication screen beeped. Incoming message from Deep Space Listening Post 4, the computer said. Play it, Krax said. He listened to the message from Scott. He heard the voice of the old human leader. He heard the words, "We forgive you." Krax sat down slowly. He listened to the message 3 times. When it was finished, he turned off the screen. The room was dark, lit only by the stars outside the window. They forgave us, Krax whispered to the empty room. They are millions of miles away, living in paradise, and they took the time to say they forgive us. Krax realized that the humans had won completely. They had not won by fighting. They had not won by conquering. They had won by evolving. They had moved to a higher level of existence, a level where anger and revenge were useless things left behind. The Council had spent 10 years trying to prove they were worthy of the Earth. They had tried to show the humans that they could be civilized. But the humans already knew. The humans had always known. That was why they left. They were waiting for the Council to catch up. The judgment that the Council had feared was not a punishment. The judgment was the mirror. The humans had held up a mirror and showed the galaxy its own ugly face, and then they had walked away to find something better. Krax stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars, toward the Andromeda galaxy. It was just a small smudge of light in the distance. "We will catch up," Krax said softly to the stars. "Someday, we will be as good as you think we are. We will be gardeners, not warriors." He turned away from the window and picked up his datapad. He had a speech to write for the Council. It would be a simple speech. It would not be about borders or taxes or fleets. It would be about a message that came from the dark. The galaxy was vast and cold, but it did not feel as empty as it used to. Humanity had departed quietly, but their echo bounced off the walls of the universe, reminding everyone that there was always another way. There was always a new horizon. And somewhere, in the deep purple sky of a distant world, humans were looking at the stars, dreaming of the future, while the old world learned to be peaceful in their silence.